Today, we're diving into the story of a man who, at his absolute peak, was wealthier than most countries. A guy who clawed his way up from poverty to build a global empire on fear and, of course, cocaine. He left behind a trail of blood and chaos that literally changed the world forever. This is the incredible story of the rise and ruin of Pablo Escobar.
To really get your head around the sheer scale of his power, you have to start with this number: 80%. Just try to imagine one company controlling 80% of all the world's coffee or oil. It's almost impossible, right? Well, that's the level of control Pablo Escobar's Medellín Cartel had over the world's cocaine. It's a staggering figure, and it was the foundation of everything that came next.
So, how does one person get control of an entire global industry? I mean, it doesn't just happen overnight. It sure doesn't start with private jets and mansions. For Escobar, it started on the streets, with a brutal ambition to escape poverty, no matter the cost. So let's take a look at how he became the cocaine king.
Okay, so Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born back in 1949. He was the son of a farmer and a school teacher. Pretty humble beginnings. But growing up on the streets of Medellín, it was obvious from a young age that this guy had an ambition that just could not be contained by a normal life. He wanted it all, and he wasn't willing to wait. He definitely didn't start at the top. His early days were, filled with petty crimes, smuggling some contraband, stealing cars, that kind of thing. But here's the difference. Escobar wasn't just another street thief. He was a strategist. He saw all these small-time crimes as just a training ground for something much, much bigger.
And that bigger thing showed up in the late 1970s. It was like a perfect storm, really. You had Escobar's raw, ruthless ambition crashing right into a surging global demand for a new drug. And that collision, it lit the fuse on his explosive rise to power.
What's just mind-blowing when you look at this timeline is the speed of it all. In the late 70s, he sees the huge demand for cocaine in the US and realizes, that's my ticket. By the early 80s, he's already formed the infamous Medellín Cartel. And then, just a few years later, by the mid-80s, he wasn't just a criminal anymore, he was a global figure, basically running his own empire.
Just stop and think about that for a second. We're not talking per year or even per month. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars every single week. The amount of cash was so insane, they literally had to start burying it because they couldn't deal with it all. That kind of wealth lets you buy anything and anyone. It made him feel totally untouchable.
But that untouchable feeling wasn't just bought with money. Oh no. It was forged in blood. His entire empire was built not with bricks and mortar, but with a horrifying reign of terror, all fueled by just unimaginable violence.
His wealth was absolutely legendary, and he loved to show it off. We're talking massive mansions, his own private zoos filled with exotic animals he flew in, whole fleets of airplanes. He even had his own private army. But nothing shows his audacity more than when he offered to pay off Colombia's entire national debt, a multi-billion-dollar offer just so he could be free from prosecution forever.
And this right here, this was his core belief. See, money can be taken away, but fear was an asset that just grew with every single act of brutality. He knew that if he could make people scared enough, he could control anyone, politicians, judges, even the whole country. And he got devastatingly good at weaponizing that fear.
And this was the result. This was the real cost of his empire. It was paid by anyone who dared to get in his way. Politicians, judges, journalists, assassinated in broad daylight. Rival cartels, wiped out in brutal street wars. And the most tragic part, innocent civilians paid the ultimate price. Killed by car bombs that turned cities across Colombia into actual war zones.
An empire built on that much violence just can't last forever. Eventually, the rest of the world decided enough was enough. The forces working against him finally started to come together, and this marked the beginning of the end. His fall was now inevitable.
The pressure started coming from all sides. A really powerful alliance formed between the US government, who brought in DEA agents, and Colombia's own special forces. And get this, they were even joined by rival cartels who saw a chance to take out their biggest competitor. Suddenly, Pablo Escobar was the most wanted man on the entire planet. So facing capture in 1991, Escobar cuts one of the most ridiculous deals in history. He agrees to surrender, but only if he gets to build his own prison. The result was this place, La Catedral. I mean, calling it a prison is a joke. It was a luxury fortress with a soccer field, a bar, incredible views. It was a total mockery of justice, and it let him keep running his empire from behind these gilded bars.
But when the government finally decided to move him to a real prison, Escobar just walked out the back door. His escape triggered one of the largest manhunts in history. For more than a year, the most powerful criminal in the world was on the run, until the hunt finally led them to a quiet middle-class neighborhood in Medellín and a final desperate chase across the rooftops.
And on that day, December 2nd, 1993, the chase was over. Pablo Escobar was shot and killed by Colombian forces. The man who had held an entire nation hostage with fear and violence was gone. His reign of terror was finally over.
But the story doesn't just stop on that rooftop. See, the death of the man was one thing, but the legacy he left behind, that's another story entirely.
I mean, the scale of the damage is just hard to comprehend. He left behind an entire country traumatized by a level of violence it's still recovering from today. He completely transformed the global drug trade into the sophisticated, multinational business we see now. And in death, he created a legend. A dark, captivating death that, for some reason, continues to fascinate the world.
And that kind of leaves us with this final, nagging question. His actual empire of cocaine and fear is long gone. But the myth of Pablo Escobar seems more powerful than ever, right? It's glamorized in movies and TV shows. So you have to ask yourself, what happens to our sense of right and wrong when a brutal killer is remembered as a legend? Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.